A new era in US-Australian relations has begun with the arrival of 200 Marines to be based in Darwin. The force will grow to 2,500 over the next few years, while naval and air force assets are also offered up for American use. It's part of Washington's drive to increase its footprint in the Asia-Pacific. Hayden Cooper reports on the scope and significance of the American military moves.
As most Australians slept, a foreign force descended on the nation's northern frontier. But for these Marines from Fox Company's 2nd Battalion, Darwin is their new home, and their hosts are happy to have them.
This is very much an historic day. To Captain Richardella and Fox Company, you are here today because more than 60 years ago, Australia and the United States forged an alliance which has served us well for over 60 years.
President Barack Obama's visit late last year marked the beginning of this new engagement by the US in Australia and the Asia-Pacific region.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
The plan to put American boots on Australian soil is just one element of the new cooperation. But what does it really mean for this country, for the Americans, and for the Asian superpower watching on?
It's not so much the Marines themselves, but it's the symbol that the signal that sends to the region that Australia is and the United States are working together to meet these common challenges. So I think it's quite an important shift.
Well, I think it's a very important moment and one that we should appreciate because it's a culmination of 60 years of a strong alliance.
The long American history in Asia means the military presence in the region is already well established with permanent bases. But this expansion will bolster the deployment, both here in Australia and further afield, increasing numbers in Singapore and Guam, with talk also of drones flying from Australia's Cocos Island.
We will be strengthening our presence in the Asia-Pacific.
The President's man in Australia says it's a reordering of priorities.
We've been working around the world to make sure that we've got our chess pieces laid down in the right places, and that to the extent that we were overrepresented, where we had too many of our forces present, we need to realign them.
Most of the US forces in this part of the world are in Northeast Asia, very few are in Southeast Asia.
Long-time analyst and former diplomat Professor Alan DuPont says the US is moving to boost its monitoring of important sea trade routes, and one in particular, the Malacca Strait between Malaysia and Indonesia. The rise of China is a crucial factor.
The concerns about the Malacca Strait is if you've got roughly half the world's trade going through there, then anything that actually might disrupt that trade, and that could be pirates, it could be environmental problems, it could be an accident at sea, or it could be old-fashioned geopolitics, that is the rivalry between the United States and China and perhaps India. So any of those scenarios could bring about some kind of blockage to that trade. It would have major implications, not just for Australia, but for the whole world.
China is watching the US expansion very closely, and Washington has been careful in the way it goes about it.
We actually spoke with our Chinese friends before any of this was announced, and they understand, as we understand, that this is not directed at them. It's directed towards ensuring that whatever comes to pass in this region, whether it is the sorts of floods that we've seen in Fiji this week or in Thailand or in Australia, or earthquakes that we saw in New Zealand, we have people who are trained in the region to address any kind of disaster.
Beijing's burgeoning sphere of influence has well and truly stretched into the Pacific as well. Notably Papua New Guinea and Fiji, another reason the American presence is now being boosted.
The Chinese are very interested in the economic resources of Papua New Guinea. They've been a factor, of course, in the relations with Fiji. They've taken a keen interest in Fiji, in part filling some of the vacuum from Australia's eroded relationship, if you like, with Fiji.
In another era, American troops were known as overpaid, oversexed and over here. This visiting force will be far smaller with a much lower profile. And on the humid streets of Darwin, authorities hope they'll be treated like locals.
Shake their hands, say good day, and if you see them in a pub in Mitchell Street, shout them a beer.
Oh, they are very excited to be here. In fact, I met them last night at the airport when they came in, and it was exciting to see how much energy they had. They came bouncing down the steps, and then I saw them again early this morning, knowing that they hadn't gotten much sleep, and they were still just as enthusiastic and charged up.
Welcome. Please enjoy your stay here. Good luck.
Hayden Cooper reporting.